One man stood in a burning library and chose to save the books instead of himself. But history forgot to tell us why. The Library of Alexandria didn't burn down in a single moment the way we often imagine it did. Instead, it faded. It dimmed. And the people living inside its walls during its final days didn't fully realize they were witnessing the end of something irreplaceable. They went about their work, shelving scrolls, copying manuscripts, answering questions from patrons who came seeking wisdom, while the world around them quietly changed in ways that would erase centuries of human knowledge. Let's begin with what we know, and more importantly, with what we've lost. The Library of Alexandria was built around 280 BCE in the coastal city of Alexandria, Egypt, during the reign of Ptolemy II. It wasn't simply a library in the modern sense, it was a living institution, a temple of learning where thousands upon thousands of scrolls were collected, preserved, and studied. The greatest minds of the ancient world came through its halls seeking knowledge that had been gathered from across the Mediterranean and beyond. But here's what most people don't realize. The library that burned wasn't the same library that was built. By the time of its destruction, it had already been divided, moved, and transformed so many times that historians still argue about what exactly was lost and when. This ambiguity, this fog of uncertainty, is part of what makes the story so haunting. The people living through these events couldn't have known the full weight of what was slipping away from them. Around 48 BCE, something irreversible began. Julius Caesar arrived in Alexandria during a civil conflict, and in the chaos of his military campaign, a fire broke out near the harbor where ships were docked. The flames spread. Scholars and librarians watched helplessly as portions of the collection went up in smoke. But they couldn't have known, that this was only the beginning of a slow, grinding loss that would continue for centuries. Decades passed. The library was rebuilt, restored, and restocked. Scholars returned. The gentle work of preserving human knowledge resumed, but the institution was never quite the same. Funding became inconsistent. Political upheaval in Alexandria meant that sometimes resources flowed generously toward the library, and sometimes they dried up entirely. The librarians adapted, working quietly with what they had, never knowing that their efforts were becoming increasingly fragile. Then came the rise of Christianity across the Roman Empire. Religious fervor brought with it a different kind of fire, not the destructive flames of war, but the systematic sorting of knowledge. Books that didn't align with religious doctrine were removed from shelves. Some were destroyed outright. Others were simply allowed to disappear as the library's budget contracted and its priorities shifted. Librarians made choices they thought were reasonable at the time. They couldn't see the future they were erasing. By the 7th century, the Library of Alexandria had become a shadow of its former self. The city had changed. The empire had fractured. When Arab forces arrived in 641 CE and took control of Alexandria, they found a library that was already diminished, already weakened by centuries of neglect, fire, and political indifference. The final destruction wasn't dramatic. It was almost quiet, a slow closing of doors, a final dimming of the lights that had once illuminated the ancient world. What makes this loss so profound is not just the scrolls themselves, but what they represented. The Library of Alexandria held works by philosophers whose names we know only from fragments. It contained scientific treatises that wouldn't be rediscovered for 1,000 years. Medical texts, mathematical proofs, histories of civilizations that have since vanished, all of it was woven into those scrolls. When they burned or faded or were simply forgotten, entire branches of human understanding were severed. And yet, there's something oddly peaceful about the way the library faded rather than vanished in a single catastrophic moment. It means that for centuries, people knew what was happening. They felt the weight of it. Librarians made the choice, again and again, to preserve what they could, to copy what mattered, to pass knowledge forward even as the institution around them crumbled. That quiet persistence, that gentle determination in the face of inevitable loss, is perhaps the most human part of this story. Today, we live in the hum of that distant loss. Every time we search for information, every time we rely on what's been written down and preserved, we're benefiting from the knowledge that survived and mourning, perhaps without quite knowing it, all that didn't. The Library of Alexandria reminds us that preservation isn't automatic. It requires constant, gentle effort. It requires people who care enough to keep the lights on, even when the world is changing around them. As you drift towards sleep tonight, Perhaps imagine those ancient halls, the soft glow of oil lamps, the quiet rustling of papyrus, the gentle sound of a scholar's pen moving across parchment. Imagine the weight of knowing that what you're preserving matters, even if the world doesn't yet understand how much. That's the gentle hum of the ancient library, still echoing through time. It's a reminder that knowledge, like sleep, comes to us slowly, peacefully, and should never be taken for granted. Subscribe for more gentle journeys through history's forgotten corners. Each week, a new story waiting to ease you toward rest.